Bizarre pictures that prove history was even stranger than you realized. This is the picture of a woman who worked in a watch factory in the 1920s. Hundreds of young women that worked in these factories in the 1920s were exposed to so much radium that they would go home and glow in the dark. The exposure often caused their vertebrae to collapse, their jaws to fall off, and their lives to end slowly thanks to agonizing cancer.
Tell us about the haunted hotel. Gladly. Hidden deep in the Ozark Mountains is allegedly America's most haunted hotel, the Crescent. Built in 1884 as a resort for the rich and famous, and used as a teacher's college and then a junior college. In 1937, it was purchased by this monster, Norman G. Baker, at the time a kind of combination of P.T. Barnum and Rush Limbaugh. At the time, he had the #1 radio show in America, and he claimed to be a doctor with a cure for cancer. He turned the Crescent into a hospital, and people arrived in the hundreds. Dr. Baker would have you sign several forms, including one that was totally blank. If you died, he would take that blank form with your signature, write a letter to your home claiming to be you, and ask for more money. It was rumored he would do experiments on the patient's bodies in this meat locker before selling the bodies to medical schools. But there was no hard evidence, and eventually he was arrested for mail fraud. Well, I say there was no hard evidence until 2019 when they found 400 jars of human remains. Even the FBI got involved, and they said, yeah, that dude totally killed people. But that's just the history. Want to hear about the ghosts?
Gruesome Facts You Didn't Know, Part 1. The French Revolution is where the guillotine was first introduced. The people to be executed would actually fight to go first, which is because the blade would dull after a few cuts, and would no longer cut the head off in one attempt.
The old graveyard shift, as we know it today, that ringer. Particularly this was done overnight, as they assumed that passerbys in the town nearby would hear the bells during the day.
This is a ritual room inside the Grand Lodge of the Freemasons in Adelaide, South Australia. I was recently granted access to film inside the mysterious building and look for its ghosts. For many years, rumours have circulated that this building is haunted. Its best known ghost is that of Thomas Fax. He was a Freemason and interestingly died about 40 years before this place was even built, though his ghost is said to have made its way here connected to a portrait. There's also a white lady who hangs out in the main lobby, though no one knows who she is. A lot of paranormal activity apparently goes on in the Grand Hall, where people see light anomalies and full-bodied apparitions along the balcony. The lifts also seem to move around on their own, and poltergeist activity even occurs upstairs where people's bags get moved around. I have a full investigation video at the Grand Lodge on the Amy's Crypt YouTube channel, but make sure to also follow me here as I'll be sharing some evidence captured at the Grand Lodge in the coming days.
I've been smelling cigarette smoke randomly in our house, which never happens. And now all of a sudden I randomly will smell cigarette smoke, so I googled it. This was fun, guys.
I took these pictures of my son yesterday, and whenever I got home, I reviewed all the pictures that I'd taken, and you see the little feet up at the top of each one of these pictures? They were not there whenever I took the photos, and my son was alone in that slide, and no kid was up there with him.
Okay guys, I'm gonna shut this flashlight off because this gives me a headache just staring at it, so I'm sure you guys are getting a headache too. You can turn it back on if you want.
Most terrifying liquid in the world. It is like sulfuric acid. When the mouse is thrown in, it will be swallowed instantly. The keyboard turns into a solution. Even the Rubik's Cube was completely engulfed in front of him. It is the industrial solvent acetone. It can react with polystyrene, cause the air inside the foam to escape a lot, and all that's left is paste like polystyrene. Isn't that amazing? But you never expected it to be used to make girls' nail polish too. Well, do you look good with nail polish?
I live across the street from one of the most haunted hotels in the world. The whole time I've been living here, the hotel has been closed, but I have experienced strange sightings, strange shadows. Some of the lights started just turning on. There was a fan that turned on, a couple lights that turned on, and the next day they would be turned off. There would be all these doors open and windows open. The next day it would shut. The curtains in different rooms are slightly different from day to day, and there is nobody going in or out of the hotel.
This video is honestly some of the most compelling paranormal evidence I have caught on camera. It is exactly what I was just telling you about. Listen, volume all the way up. You will know what I'm talking about at the end. I promise it is worth it.
Fucker, I was just chilling in my goddamn bed, just relaxing, hanging out, and my shithead fucking heater just turned on its own. What fucking ghost or demon, that has to be a demon, fucking thinks that I can do this shit right now. I just heard some knocking. Bitch, leave me alone. I was just vibing to some Arctic Monkeys. I am mad. Turn it off. I said, turn it off. There the fuck we go. That's fucking right.
Animal skeletons that might change the way you look at them. For years, people believed that the skeleton belonged to a demon or some kind of dragon. This carcass was known as Jenny Hanover, but it was commonly called the devilfish. What it was actually a dead sea skate. Now imagine discovering new land and finding the skulls of one of Satan's pets in your backyard. You'd probably pack up your favorite family members and leave expeditiously, and I wouldn't blame you. This is what the first people to see that skull probably thought it looked like, but this is what it actually looked like. Next time you think to yourself life isn't fair, remember this picture. This animal got folded by its own skeleton after getting skull checked by its own teeth. This skull may look like a sadistic prank from nature, but it's a way of life for the Barbaroussa. It's an Indonesian wild pig whose destiny in life is to get clapped by his own overbite. Man has too much on his mind. Now what if I told you this beast was still alive somewhere at the bottom of the ocean? Now imagine going to the beach and knowing this Jurassic Park reject was in the same area code as you. And what if I told you the same beast could turn you into a hashtag without even touching you? Well, then I'd be talking about the sperm whale. Living proof that nature didn't fall all of its rough drafts.
This is one of the last people still living in an iron lung. His name is Paul Alexander, and his story is incredible. At only 6 years old, he was diagnosed with polio and placed in one of these machines. As you can see, hospitals used to be lined with these respirators. After 18 months, they told him he could go home. He was paralyzed from the neck down and could not breathe without the machine. The doctors all thought he wouldn't live much longer. But here he is, living in Dallas at 74 years old. He even became a lawyer and a writer.
How much would they have to pay you to stay at this house? The legend of Amityville started when the DeFeo family moved in. In November of that year, Ronald the son killed 6 of his family members while they slept. The crazy thing is, no one woke up from the sound of the gunshots, and Ronald later claimed he was possessed by a demon. A year later, the Lutz family moved in, and it was so haunted by then that they only stayed for 28 days. Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the home and took this photo, except at the time of the photo, there was no children at the house. After hearing all that, how much would they have to pay you to stay the night? Let me know in the comments.
Warning, you may not want to turn the lights off tonight. A few years ago, the US Navy had to get rid of one of their abandoned ships. Photos were asked to be taken of the ship before everything was ripped apart. The photographer would spend hours sometimes in one hallway with the flashlight getting every little detail. There was no one but him in the ship taking photos. The photographer felt the photos were a bit creepy and sent them to the captain to look. The captain messaged back asking who this man was. When the photographer re-looked at the photos, he noticed a faceless man trying to kill him with an axe. That man was never there in the hours the photographer spent in that hallway. No security footage of this man, and no sign of a body when they took the ship apart.
Creepy facts you probably didn't want to know. Part 4. No one knows who lives in this house, named the John Lawson House. Every day, this porch is occupied by a varying number of female mannequins. The number of mannequins, the positions that they're in, and the clothes that they're wearing changes from day to day. No one knows who's moving them or why. However, people do believe that the mannequins are there to convey a message. In 1871, a train crashed just 200 feet away from this house. It killed 22 people. And for some reason, the mannequins are always pointing in the direction of the crash.
These are the catacombs in Paris. In the 17th century, the locals began to get sick. They believed that it was possible they were getting sick from the drinking water. And because a lot of the bodies weren't buried properly, the fluids from the decomposing bodies started to seep into the water supply and was causing disease among the people who were drinking it. So they rallied together to dig the bodies up from the cemetery, but they had to have somewhere to put them, right? That's when they decided to put 6 to 7 million bodies in these tunnels underneath the city streets. These tunnels run over 200 miles long. The exact number is not known because most of it is uncharted territory. You can visit the catacombs today, but you must go with an experienced guide. It's very easy to get lost. Just a few years ago, 2 friends went into the catacombs and went missing for 3 days. They also made a pretty good horror movie about the catacombs back in 2014 if you want to check it out. Make sure to like and follow for more.
This is why you should be careful what you put in the mail. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few weeks. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were two very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and a camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box, and then suddenly gets dropped and you hear a crack, and that's his neck breaking. And then you hear a squeaky garage door close.